Welcome to Positive Outcomes, where leaders turn hard-won experience into income, impact, and freedom.
Welcome to Positive Outcomes. This is where professionals like what we have here, Elias, and leaders turn their expertise into income, impact, and freedom. And I am your host again today. I am Dorine. So today we are going to have an amazing host. Of course, I've read about him and I'm so excited that he's here today. So today our guest is Elias. He's a multi-disciplinary leader whose career spans into IO, psychology, sales, coaching, teaching, healthcare, and now golf and entertainment. Currently serving as the Director of Expansion, Elias is known for bringing a wide toolkit to every opportunity and for pushing past obstacles and for pushing to keep growing. This is the kind of person we need here today.
That's right.
He has worked across developments, sports, entertainment, food and beverages, almost everything, right?
Everything in
And
between.
he is actually passionate about helping people and organization expand with integrity and momentum. I
Yes.
love that.
Yeah.
Elias, you are so welcome to Positive Outcomes.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we are so happy to have you. I mean, you are indeed, you have like a wide range of skills, wide range of experiences.
Yeah.
And that's why we are so happy to have you here. So before I even get started, I wrote down some questions that I just want us to talk about. You have done a lot across IO, psychology, sales, coaching, teaching, healthcare, now golf and entertainment. What threads connect these chapters for you? What connects all of this for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think that, it's important to sort of have your fundamental skill sets, your belief sets, your morals and your ethics. And those are the things that in my mind have connected me through each of these, positions in each of these industries that I've worked in. And in the heart of all that is people. I mean, I think that, people are at the center of everything we do in life, whether it's in, the professional world, professional sphere or elsewhere. And so I think that having a people-centric approach to everything that I've done, starting with the IO psychology where, a lot of the work that we were doing was helping businesses maximize the potential of their employees, making employees feel empowered and making employees understand the goals of, the larger organizations or larger structures and putting people in a position to be successful in the business world. So, that was a really great way for me to start my professional career. I had studied adolescent psychology in college and sort of stuck with the idea of, psychology being at the core of a lot of what I do. And so from there, made a jump into sales. And I think it's important, to recognize that money's always going to be part of your path. You kind of have to consider it, and for me at that point, that was a big consideration. I felt like I wanted to sort of find a way to start building a foundation for my future.
Right.
So I went into sales, and Career Builder at the time was, a really great company in terms of the products that they offered. Really connecting people to jobs and connecting people to opportunities. So again, having that sort of person first approach was something that I appealed to. And I think that the reason that I actually was successful in sales was also as I worked with clients and businesses, to me, it was about really understanding them. It wasn't about pushing a certain product or whatever. If the product that I wanted to sell wasn't right for them, I wasn't going to, push it on them. And I think that I built a lot of trust in the clients that I worked with in that regard. And then, and then I jumped into the teaching. And I think that teaching and coaching, anytime you're working with kids, it's about the kids. It's really about the kids. Those are just some examples that, I don't want to, go too far.
One thing you said that you keep saying that it's just touching my heart is people, the love of mankind.
Yeah.
Like what you've said, and that's really true leadership, right?
Yeah.
Because if nobody's following you, who are you leading? Well, you start by leading yourself, of course, but you have to have followers.
Yeah, 100%.
And I just love from your first three sentences, you said people.
Yeah.
I was like, wow.
Yeah.
And that's what our listeners we need to hear. And the integrity, the genuine love for mankind will propel
100%.
you to do things that your
Yeah,
natural self would not do. So
100%.
that was
Yeah,
amazing
and
when
for
you
me,
said.
that goes back to, my folks, and just sort of my upbringing, that I had a community that really prioritized, everybody else. Like, my folks worked in, they've been,
And that's something
yeah,
that I really,
social
maybe you
justice
can talk
advocates.
about
Yeah.
that a little bit, because a lot of people didn't have that community, right? The
Yeah,
community
no,
that
it's
you have.
yes, and I don't take that, for granted. I think
Right.
that, I look at, even my current community and feel quite grateful, to have had people that have lifted me up and have given me the opportunity to then, pay it forward and, lift other
That's
people up as well.
amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So among all the skills that you have, right, which two of them have transferred the best across the industry?
Yeah.
And how did you learn them? Like which of the two? Because you have different skills,
Yeah.
right? Let's just narrow it to two. Which
Sure.
of them?
Yeah. I mean, empathy is, I think that, and I don't know if that's necessarily a skill. It's more of a capacity, I mean, humans, we inherently feel empathy. So I don't know if that's necessarily a skill. I would
Oh,
say,
that is a skill,
yeah,
I'll
I mean,
tell you. I
it's
love
a
that skill.
skill. Yeah, I mean, it's something that you can practice empathy too,
Yes. Yes.
but so I would say that that's pretty important and something that there's no question has been
Hmm.
at the core of everything that I've done through all of the different industries. I would also say another skill, or it's not so much a skill, but a disposition, is the growth mindset. I
Mm,
think that, especially in your younger years, maybe in my early 20s, it's you want to do a good job all the time, and you
right.
want to, you want to impress people, and it gets in the way, that approach maybe gets in the way of learning from your mistakes.
Right.
And I think that for me, I focus, I mean, sometimes to a detriment, but I focus way more on the things that I need to improve upon or I need to learn, or, when a mistake comes about, how do I learn from that and what do I learn from that? So
Right.
having that, growth mindset
Good
has
one.
really has allowed me to do different things because,
Right.
people don't look at me and say he's does one thing and one thing
Right.
only. It's more, hey, if you give him an opportunity, he'll understand, he'll ask questions, he'll learn, and I never assume that I have the answers. I always want to make sure that I'm,
So this is so
pursuing all
great for,
channels to get
yes,
where we
for
need to
our
go.
listeners listening out there. He said two skills that for you to really scale and grow in whatever you do: love of mankind,
Yeah, it's really,
empathy,
yeah,
and to
empathy.
grow.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
if you're not growing, I feel like you're going backwards, right?
I sort of feel, especially now. I mean, especially now, I think that the reality is we live in a world that is increasingly fast paced. I think it's, with information just being so readily available that it almost turns people into being a little bit more passive and just sort of
I can see
assuming
that.
that things are going to, just
Hmm.
make their way to them,
Yeah.
as opposed to really, opening yourself up and also going out and pursuing knowledge and
Yeah.
pursuing growth. I think that it's really important.
Yeah.
And
I
especially
can
if you
see
want to
that.
lead people.
You mentioned you've never doubted what you bring, but have sometimes struggled to maybe find like a path.
Yeah.
What did those season, those moments, because I know,
Mhm.
teach you about direction and
Yeah.
alignment?
Yeah. I think, for me, part of it is my circle. I come in my immediate family has the majority of them are lawyers, and it's just been a very one track. We go to law school, we're lawyers, this is what we're doing, and there's never really been a like, where do I go from here?
So
Sort of,
there's not much diversity.
yeah. And for me, I was never gonna go into law.
Oh, wow.
It wasn't something that I felt drawn to or passionate about.
Is this something that you saw in, like in my family, I have a lot of doctors, and I said, I don't want to be a doctor just
Yeah.
because I saw how stressed they are, although I ended up being a doctor in
Yeah.
another way. But is this something that you saw that like, I don't want to do this?
Yeah, in some respects. I also think that my parents, where I think a lot of people in that circumstance where you have one thing or, a couple things that your family does, that's what they
Right.
push. My parents did not push that. They wanted me to really explore what
Oh,
was
that's
interesting
nice.
to me. Yeah, and I think that was
That's really
great,
good.
but at the same time, it's like took me a while to figure out what that is, right? I mean, while I've been able to sort of maintain, what is at the core of my approach to every day, it's been hard to figure out where I want to apply that, right? Like, while I loved teaching, for instance, I got a lot out of teaching and felt like I was really making a positive difference. It drained me a little bit, I'll be honest. Like, I got to a point with teaching where I didn't think it was fair to the students
Mm,
for me to feel like I'm not entirely committed to,
right.
to them and
Oh, wow.
to the position, and so it was at that point where I stepped away. I gave them 3 months notice. It was the
Oh,
same sort of thing.
wow.
I said, I can't finish this school year, but I also don't want to leave, the school and the students shorthanded or whatever.
What does those seasons
Yeah.
teach you about direction and
Yeah,
alignment?
right. And finding the direction. Yeah. So I think what I've learned through my 20s, I'm 34 now, was, I think, patience and to understand that it's okay to not know, right? Like, I think people come out of college and they're scared because I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know how to apply my education or my current experience to something else. And there's this sense of panic where people get into their 30s, into their 40s, and that's still the case. And it's okay,
Yeah.
right? And I think what I found was that yes, it's great that I ended up in golf, which is a huge passion of mine. But what even before that, what became more important was how I did something, right? And why I did something, not necessarily what I was doing, but how and why, were the more important aspects. And so,
Wow.
when you sort of let go of, the what and really focus on the why in particular, then, those maybe that discomfort of feeling like, am I in the right place? It sort of
Right.
subsides a little bit. You kind
That's
of
deep.
accept that
Yeah.
you're doing what you can to be the best
Yeah.
person, to be the best employee, to be the best leader that you can be every day. And, that's ultimately,
And
where
when
I
you
get.
have to say some people's why, is just to have money.
Yeah. No,
And
and
as you
that's
know, that
okay.
doesn't come with happiness and fulfillment, right?
No, not always, but and I res- I totally respect and understand that, for a lot of people, they have to make those professional decisions based on, financial circumstances. And, that's tough, but I think you can make those choices, but if you don't really consider again where you are and how you're going about what you're doing, like, great, yes, I'm here because I'm trying to earn more money. Great, that you're there, right? So then you got to kind of find a new why for
Exactly.
why you're going to do what you do, and why you're going to put in the maximum amount of
Yep.
effort, why you're going to take, the growth mindset approach.
Exactly.
And I think that's
Yeah.
the way to find
And when you find
it.
out why, that's where you get the long-term reward.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So
Exactly.
that's really good. So that alignment piece really shows up strongly in your current work in expansion. I can
Mhm.
really see the flow. So what does director of expansion look like day to day in the
Yeah.
golf and entertainment space?
Sure. So yeah, so Five Iron Golf, so it's an indoor golf facility. We have their simulator bays, so it's uses a technology called TrackMan, and they're 16 feet wide, they're 21 feet deep. They're these sort of intimate spaces where people can go and they play golf, and it's a lot of fun. You can play for real, you can play for fun. There's drinks, there's food. It's a really fun environment. And for me, I went and got a master's in sports administration.
Oh,
And
wow.
one of the things that I worked on during that time, my capstone project, was focused on making golf specifically more accessible. Golf has been riddled in really negative stigmas and stereotypes that aren't really stigmas, they're true, right? I mean,
You're talking to the right person.
yeah,
One time my husband plays golf,
it
but
has not been a super accessible sport through the
yeah,
years. And so,
exactly.
the core values of Five Iron are, making this game that I love accessible, right? And inviting to anybody, whether you like golf, whether you've played it before, whether you don't, etc. So for me, my job daily, we're focusing on expanding across the country and the world.
Hmm.
We are international as well. And so, it really, no day looks the same because we're approaching projects at different timelines. I've got 3 locations that are getting ready to open, and then I've got 3 locations that
Wow.
we're just beginning construction, and then I've got,
Busy.
4 locations that we're, in lease negotiations with, and so you're at different points in the process throughout. So, I think that, and it's not a lot of this stuff, even like I'll use lease negotiations, for example. Like, that's not my area of expertise. Like, I don't know. I didn't come into this position with a lot of knowledge about what that looks like. I had done some lease reviewing in my previous role, but really opened myself up to learn from that,
Hmm.
and to learn
Opening
the
up to
process.
learn.
Yeah,
Yes. Well, I just want the viewers to know that everything is not set in stone. Just
no.
let go and relearn, like I always
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
Give yourself the opportunity to relearn and to grow and
Yeah.
wherever you find
And I
yourself.
think that people are tend to be, they're, for whatever reason, there's nerves, or there's a fear to ask.
Anxiety, they're
Yeah,
anxious,
to ask
worried.
questions, to expose yourself as and say, I don't know this,
Exactly.
but to me, like, you're always going to not know what you don't know. Right. So you have to
Yes.
go out and pursue it. And I think that
Yes.
that's something
Yes.
that I do in every aspect of my job. I think, when I'm on site, it's a construction site essentially, and I don't have a construction background. I'm asking questions to
Hmm.
the electrician, how does this work?
Right.
Why are we running the conduit this way, or whatever the case may be, but to really understand, and also it gives me appreciation for all of the hands that do
Right.
the work.
So let me ask you this. When you enter a new market, right, what are some of the early signs that will tell you this is good? This is going.
Yeah. So for me, and what I always look for is, and this won't be a surprise, having said what I said, is the staff that we construct. I think that, we can build a space that is beautiful. It has all of the bells and whistles that we can provide. But if you don't have a staff that values what we're doing, that takes pride in the space, that takes pride in the operations, that no matter how beautiful that space will be, it's not going to be successful, right? You really need to have buy-in. So when I get an opportunity to spend time with staff before we open, I do my best to encourage buy-in, right? Whether it's like, hey, why don't you come and, take a look at the computer setup, and you can be somebody who owns this computer setup, and I'll walk you through it this first time, and then you and I can go around, and, you'll feel like when somebody comes to the
Yeah, you're
computer,
important, you're
you set that up
relevant.
for them. Like,
Yeah,
you did
exactly.
that. And
Yes.
so whatever, whatever small it might be, encouraging buy-in from your staff is really important. And I think it sets the
Wow.
tone,
That is called leadership, guys. So you
yeah,
guys hearing what he's saying? That is leadership, right? It's not me. I say it, you do it.
yeah. No, no,
That is,
I don't. Yeah, I really, I think it's funny on LinkedIn, you see these things all the time about, like,
yeah.
the difference between, like, a boss and a leader.
And yes,
And I think that I love those images, and I think that they are so important because, success typically tends to be top down, right? Like, if you're building a culture and an approach at the top that values everything beneath it, then, your people beneath you are going to feel valued. They're going to feel empowered. They're
exactly.
going to, they're going to want to, do a good job. They're going to have pride in what they do.
Exactly. They're going to
Um,
have
you know,
pride. I love that.
and a
Yeah,
leader is meant to support.
exactly.
I'm not here to micromanage. I'm not here to, uh, you know, like you said, like, just say, hey, you do this, this, this. It's
Yeah.
more, really wanting people to take ownership of what
Yeah,
they're
I
doing.
love that. And I'm sure the viewers have heard me say almost on every episode, you connect before you correct. You
That's
connect
right.
before you communicate. That's a whole chapter in my book,
100%.
Transformational Leadership in Healthcare. You have to connect. When you have people in mind, people at the center, and you
Yeah.
connect with them, make them feel relevant and important, letting them know the why
Yeah. Yeah.
and what success looks like. You
Yeah.
guys are going to be a winning team.
100%.
So
Yeah.
I love that.
I'm sure you know about Simon Sinek. Yeah. I mean, I love that philosophy that he
Yes,
has, and really, like, I think that's been that particular philosophy, starting with the why. Like, that book really
yes,
had
starting
a
with
had a
why.
profound impact on me, for
Yes.
sure.
So let me ask you this. Give us a story of a no or an obstacle that became a yes, and what changed?
Yeah. So I think that a great example of that would be how I got to this particular position that I'm in right now. When I started with Five Iron, there were 9 locations across the country. We're now 30 plus and, have another 75 in the pipeline coming for
It
the
is
next 3
growing
years. So
fast.
growing fast, right? And
Yes.
so I, about a year and a half in, and I'm over 4 years now to the job, about a year and a half in, I felt like I had done enough or that I was deserving of a promotion. And I went and I asked for it and did not, did not get positive. I got a no, I got a no. And at first, I think it's inherent for us to be upset.
Yeah, human being.
Like,
Yeah.
hey,
Yeah.
why?
Normal.
What did I do? Like, I deserve this. So, in that moment, you kind of have 2 options, right? You can carry resentment with you, right? And a lot of people do that. But you can easily carry resentment with you.
Mm.
Or you can sort of look at what you've been doing, appreciate in yourself that you have done a great job, and try to take the positives of that and say, okay, well, I know what I want. And just because I got the no now doesn't mean I'm going to never get it.
Wow.
So I said to my boss at that time, what do you think, needs to happen in order for you to see me as somebody who can be more,
Mm. I
more
love that.
involved, right? So really kind of saying, not like not being aggressive about it but having an honest conversation to say, hey, I hear you that you think I'm not ready for this, and I, I trust you, I'm here for that, but how do we get there? Like, tell me what it is. And so I didn't necessarily get a lot of feedback from my boss about how that would be. So I ended up creating, not necessarily creating a position, but I
Wow.
really, went out and defined what I thought this position would look like, why the company needed this, how, I would bring value through this position,
Oh, wow.
and sort of gave that to her and started doing all of these things even before I got the promotion, because ultimately it's like I saw this, sort of opportunity within the company to really sort of spearhead the details of expansion, which is really kind of what I do, is all of the small details.
Wow.
And so I wrote out,
I love it.
not just a job description, but sort of
Yes.
a plan of action. And again, why this is great for the company. And I didn't wait for them to say, yes, you can go ahead and do this. I said, I'm going to do this. Like, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to show you what this looks like before you guys, give me the,
This is
give it to
so
me.
encouraging
Yeah.
for us, the viewers. When you hear that no and you're passionate about what you're doing, you can create it and turn
Yeah.
it all into a yes.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that it was also in a way it was yes, she said no, but I didn't say no. Like, you can, when someone says no to you, you can accept that no
Oh,
and be like, it's over, right? Like, it's over. But you can
you
also
didn't
say,
accept the no,
yeah.
guys.
And
I like that.
I said, well, I accept that you are saying no, but I'm not going to say no to me.
Right.
I'm not saying that this is over for me,
Yes.
and sort of, I mean, you have to
And
be,
I think that you did that too because you understood your value. You knew you
yeah,
were capable. You knew
yeah,
you had opportunity, and you knew you had one thing to offer. And
yeah,
that ties back into the personal development and growth that you talked about earlier, because you were building yourself and working yourself. And that's why you were confident enough
yeah,
to say, okay, that is your no, and that's your perception, but I don't receive it. I don't perceive it because I know that this is what I have to offer.
yeah, exactly.
So
Exactly.
that's just super amazing. So how do you balance rapid growth, right,
Mhm.
with guest experiences and team culture? Because what usually happens in most organizations is that when they're growing so fast, the experience is just a mess. The culture is
Yeah.
not there. How
Yeah.
do you balance all of that?
It's a great question, and it's an incredibly difficult thing. I think that, for me, once we open a location, I'm not as involved in like the day-to-day operations, which for me makes it even more important that we set the tone right away before we even open, as we're preparing to open a location. So that, when operations comes in and takes over, you know, that everybody's already, running. They're already there, boots are on the ground and they're ready to go. But I think that we have, and I think that there have been times over the last 4 years where our growth, and I don't necessarily see it on the operation side, but because of how fast we were growing, we sort of lost our brand standards. We sort of, maybe had a little bit of an identity crisis that, that maybe did have the product sort of suffer, that saw the product suffer, and the customer experience maybe wasn't as great as I know it can be. But I think that any company is going to go through those. If you're a company that's expanding like, in this fashion, through multiple sites and multiple locations, that you're going to hit that growing pain at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yes,
you
for sure.
absolutely are. And
Mm-hmm.
it is important not to outpace yourself, right? Like, to say, yes, we want to take on 15 different markets, but, what's the drawback of that, right? Like, where you're going to lose, control of the
Right.
brand standard as you do that. So I think it's about patience. I mean, patience is essential because
Yes, for
everybody
sure.
wants to rush to open something like a new location, because that's when the revenue starts coming in, right? You need to be open to generate revenue. But if you rush through that process, you don't have the patience to make sure that, that the brand is where it needs to be, that the product and the experience is where it needs to be, that the facility is where it needs to be. Then you're sort of, you know you're cutting yourself short, because
Wow.
it's going to take away from that experience, and you're going to have less revenue because
Right.
people aren't going to want to come. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you kind of really want to make sure that you're checking all of your boxes and making sure that everything that you can do to set yourself up for success is
Mm-hmm.
done before you
Wow.
begin. Right. So I
And then
think
you're
that
pulling the
that's,
team along, like you said at
yeah,
the beginning,
yeah,
to
yeah,
maintain the culture, the
yeah.
team culture.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think that that's, I would say, so patience is a big part of that. And also stopping at certain points to say, okay,
Reassessing.
how's this going? Right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
how are we all feeling? Right? I mean, in 2023, I was on the road for 34 weeks,
Wow.
traveling across the United States. And I think after 2023, at the beginning of 2024, I said to my boss, like,
Pause.
we need to pause. We need to reset. I needed it personally, just from
Mm-hmm.
my own life. I needed some time to sort of be home. And
Mm-hmm. We
I'm
all do,
getting
yeah.
I'm getting married this year, and
Oh,
yeah, thank you.
congratulations.
And
That's
so,
so
I wanted
exciting.
to
Yeah,
we had just moved back to Chicago, so I said I wanted some time to sort of, get
that's
my
amazing.
my feet here. So
So
yeah, but yeah,
for
patient.
our listeners out here listening to you right now, who knows they are going under tremendous pressure and challenges right now at work or personally, or they're
Yeah.
just going through some stuff that they don't know. What is like one step or one thing that you would recommend they do this week?
Yeah.
Right.
Um One of the biggest things that has been life changing for me is, it's simple, but it's a gratitude journal. And I, at least 3-4 times a week in the morning, will write down 3 to 5 things that I'm grateful for. And it's just it's a way to sort of set the tone for a day, right? That if you're leading with gratitude, as opposed to waking up and feeling the stresses of your life, or feeling the pressures of your job, or or of the world, or whatever, that it can sort of set a really nasty tone for the rest of the day, and maybe you aren't going to be as successful in that day, because of it. So leading with gratitude is really important, and that's been something for me in the last, I think I started that like 6-7 years ago. That really changed my just day to day.
I
It
love it.
really did, because it's also
Yeah.
easy to get ahead of yourself. It's easy to get stuck in the future. It's easy to get stuck in the past. So
Practice gratitude.
yeah, practice
Practice
gratitude,
gratitude.
and sort of, looking around and appreciating the simple things in life,
Yes, simple things that you're awake. Being
Yeah,
working for at the hospital, there are people that have billions and billions of
yeah,
dollars that they cannot
yeah.
pay themselves out of the hospital.
Exactly, and also surrounding yourself with people that appreciate you, but that they share their appreciation with you. I
Oh,
mean,
wow.
I think it's hard. There are so many people that do such wonderful things, and they don't ever hear somebody say, "Thank you for this. Thank you for your work. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your attitude,
Wow.
whatever it might be." So I really try, in my personal life, and as much as I can in my professional life, surround myself with people that express gratitude and express appreciation for you. because that's what I like to do for other people. I'm always
You
trying
know,
to,
you just said,
yeah,
this is amazing, and I'm enjoying our
yeah,
conversation, right? You said something about not only us practicing gratitude, but also surrounding ourselves with
yeah,
people that
yep,
express gratitude and that are grateful towards you.
yeah,
That is
yeah,
amazing.
yeah,
That's a good
100%.
nugget for us.
Yeah,
That's a really good one.
yeah.
So, where does fear most commonly show up for high performers? Like in your team, as you're working around, where does fear usually or commonly show up for high performers, and how do you recommend or how do you move through it? Like somebody like you that have moved through different steps in your journey,
Yeah.
where does fear show up and how do you move through it?
Yeah, I think that, fear is it's such a powerful sensation, right? It's a powerful sensation. And I think for me personally, trying to mold fear into something else, right? When fear becomes powerful, it can become all consuming and it totally narrows your vision, and it really prevents you from seeing the bigger picture. So when when fear comes in, for me, I try to remove myself from the fear. I don't try to get rid of it, but I try to, take it out and put it there in front of me and try to understand, why I'm scared or why I'm fearful. Am I fearful of being, judged? Am I fearful of failing? Am I fearful of losing my job? I don't know, like whatever that fear might be, to really understand, why we feel that way. And also to understand that fear does not have to drive us. It doesn't. We can hold on to the wheel, and control fear by being patient and being thoughtful, and not letting fear be turn you into a reactive person, right? So I think that that's what I've always tried to keep in my mind is like, when I'm scared, don't overreact, right? Like, and don't try to like run from it either. It's like you
That
fear
was
is,
going to be my next question
yeah,
because some
don't.
people don't want to deal with it. Like, I don't want to
No,
deal
I,
with that
I
right
I
now.
think it's not a matter of running from it or ignoring it. It's like I said, it's trying to understand it. And when you understand it, it's sort of you're able to sort of box it up, right? You put it on your emotional shelf. That's sort of one of my like little things. I have an emotional shelf of my various feelings that I've been able to box up. I don't bury them. They're not, underground. They're on a shelf right
On the
there.
shelf, and you look at it and you deal with it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And it's sort of
And it might not be a comfortable process, right? You might not want
no.
to, your system doesn't want to deal with it.
No, no. Dealing with fear is never comfortable. It's not. I mean, it's not supposed to be either. It's hard, but when you are able to, face fear and control fear, you become that much more empowered. You really do. I mean, when you don't let your fears take wheel, you're putting yourself in a position to be very successful. I don't want to like someone who says I'm not scared of anything. That's not healthy. You should be scared of some stuff, right? Like,
Wow.
you should definitely be
Yes.
scared of things, but
So I've heard people say that what you fear the most is actually what you should try to
yeah,
do.
yeah, you
What
should
do you
never.
think about that?
Yeah. No, I think that that's hugely important. I think that the one thing that I would say about it is, like, okay, I'm scared to, say I'm scared to buy a house, right? Let's use that as an example. Don't just go out and buy a house, right? But again, ask why you're scared of buying the house, and then think about, okay, well, I'm going to do this. Like I'm going to do this, but like, let's go about how I'm going to do it and breaking it down into like actionable steps, right? Like, and making things tangible, right? Like, okay, starting a podcast is scary. Like there's so much that goes into it, but what if I, break this down into little pieces, right? And I have 3 things that I know I need to do to get started on this path, right? So I think that, when tackling something like that, it's back to understanding it, but then, really chopping it up and making it into something tangible that you can digest. And then that's not so scary, right? Like, yeah, writing an outline for a podcast episode that's not scary, right? Podcasting in general, yes, that's scary. That's you're putting yourself out there, you're putting your
Right.
beliefs and your
But guys, it's amazing because I get to talk to amazing people.
yeah,
Like,
like
look
it's
at who I'm
great.
talking to right
Exactly,
now.
right? And if you didn't have the courage to sort of face that fear, then, we wouldn't be here, and
But again, you
listeners
gave
wouldn't be
another
hearing.
great nugget there.
Yeah.
You said instead of the fear, break it down into actionable steps.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Don't handle all of it at once.
No,
Baby
no,
steps.
no. You know, my fiance right now, she's being incredibly brave. She's an artist, and you know, she is, you know, on her way to sort of start really pursuing art as her, you know, career and her, you know, her profession. And I think that, you know, she's very much taken that approach. It's a scary thing to go out and say, I'm gonna, you know, put my work out there, not just to try and sell it, but to be judged by other people and, you know, that sort of thing. But you know, by saying to me, okay, well, what's the first step, right?
Right.
Let's build this portfolio a little bit,
Right.
right? Let's kind of maybe work on our sort of general theme of how what kind of art we really want to be making, right? And really, you know, putting one, two, three, four steps into, you know, into action before you get too
You go
far ahead
out
of
there and
yourself.
do
But
it.
that's really, you know, that's the way to do it, I think.
And that brings us back to like what I do, right? I am a coach. There's so many people with expertise and they're stuck in corporate America. And I have been there, done that, and you're just not happy, right? And the fear, like we just talked about, and that happened to me years and
Mm,
years ago, where I was like podcasting, coaching, talking to people. Even though I'm a doctor of pharmacy, I have an MBA, I have a
mm.
Lean Six Sigma Black Belt, I have all these titles, I have a
Yeah.
book, I have all of this,
Mhm.
but I cannot tell you the fear
Yeah.
that I faced.
Yeah.
Just saying that, Dorine, you can step out because I was so not happy working corporate
Yeah.
America. I was like, I cannot do this anymore. But
Yeah.
I know I had the skills and I know I had the
Yeah.
expertise.
Yeah.
And what you said helped me out because I'm like, let me just do baby steps,
Yeah.
one thing at a
Yeah.
time.
One thing
And
at a
that is
time.
what helped me out
Yeah.
right now.
Also, one of the, I've just this is a sort of a big thought, but never settle for being unhappy. You know, people
No, I love that.
we're not supposed to be unhappy people. You know, that's not we get one of these. We get one life. Like this is it. Like, and it's you know, and that doesn't necessarily mean if you're unhappy, just say I'm out. Like forget this. But think about what can change in your life to sort of address why you're unhappy.
Will you say to someone that is really unhappy where they are right now? They're working so hard, they're giving their best, but they're not fulfilled,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And it's just hurting and painful for them every day waking up to
Yeah.
this mean boss. They're like they want
Yeah.
to do their own thing and they're not happy, but they feel like they have to stay there because they need money. They need to pay
Yeah.
their mortgage. They need to take care of
Yeah.
their family. They need like what do they do?
Yeah.
They're not happy. They're
Yeah.
scared, but they need money.
Yeah, I think that one, let's not brush aside. That's really hard. That's a really hard. It's hard to be unhappy. It's really, and it's not easy to say. You can't just say, "I want to be happy. I'm going to be happy today," like that. You can't do that. That's not how our brains work. That's not how our hearts work. You know, but accepting that you are unhappy is the first like thing that you have to. And I've had to do this myself on many occasions. It's like, okay, I am unhappy, right? Like I can clearly see that. And
I like that
some
accepting. First step is accepting that you're unhappy.
yeah, yeah. And then making a decision to do something about it, right? And it's not always easy. You can't just say, hey, I want a different boss. Like I don't want to work for this person. You know, I'm done. Like you can't just say that,
No.
right? But you can, you know, think about you know, how you know, what are the aspects of that relationship that bother me? Right? Like, what is it that really bothers me about that? And I can't control what this other person is doing. No, we as humans can only control ourselves. We can't control other people. That's not something that we can do. And so, what aspects of this relationship or this dynamic is making me really unhappy? And how can I, you know, change my approach, change my thinking, or change what I'm doing in order to have an impact on that relationship or to not let that person take away my energy, right? Like usually that's the case is when you have you know, a boss
So
that's
what if you
difficult.
feel like you've done all of that? You feel like, you're extremely unhappy. You've,
Yeah.
in fact, done everything you can. Like,
Yeah.
can we talk about this?
Yeah.
What can I do? You've done that self-awareness, personal talks, and change
Yeah.
strategies, change tools, and you're just unfulfilled and you're like,
100%.
you
Look,
dread doing it.
I I for me, I've had to change courses in my career because of situations like that, you know, where a situation feels like it's untenable. I think that it's okay to leave a situation. Like it is like if you've tried everything and this is not working, I can't stay in this. that's okay. Just give yourself time to think about what's next before you just
Okay.
say, cut this
Yes.
off, and like you're kind of out in the wilderness without, a
Right.
plan or without really any idea of what you want to do next. I think that that's a hard thing to do, is to leave an opportunity or an experience without an idea of what you're going to be
Right.
doing next. That can sometimes be very isolating and very
Right.
lonely even, and you can feel at times very paralyzed by this like uncertainty of like what's coming next. But yeah, I think there's no one way to do any of this, right? Like
Right.
there isn't one way to do
Yeah.
any of this. I said that to my cousin who's going through an end of a relationship, and she was telling me about, hey, my friend says I need to take 2-3 weeks to recover from this, and I shouldn't date for whatever. I said, there's no rules about
There's no
this.
rules.
There's
Yes.
no
Yes.
rules.
Yes.
You should do what you feel is right for
Right.
yourself, and you should protect your peace, protect
Protect
your
your
peace,
peace.
protect your
Oh, I
peace.
love that.
Yeah,
Protect your peace is really important. And going inside and grounding instead of
yeah,
running away from you and the
yeah,
emotions and the feeling. You
yeah,
want to feel it. You want to go inside and feel it and
yeah,
figure it out. Deal with that emotion so
yeah,
you're able to
exactly.
heal from it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep. Exactly.
yeah,
Wow. The time is running and
yeah,
we're having
yeah.
such a great conversation. So where can they find you? Where can they locate you? What do you
Yeah.
have to offer?
Sure. I'm very active on LinkedIn. I don't have like, I'm not a social media person, so I don't really have like Instagram or any of the other ones. But you can definitely find me on LinkedIn, and I'm always open to talk to anybody. Really, I
Right.
think that
Because you have a lot of nice nugget there that
yeah,
you can definitely people can definitely benefit from that.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, find me on LinkedIn, Elias Boyer. I'm reach out. Happy to get on a call. Happy to exchange emails. Whatever it might be. I'm sure there's things I can learn from your followers, and
Of
you know
course, of
things I
course. And you
that's
don't do any coaching that right now. So maybe you're about to open a
yeah,
big coaching company where everybody will be looking for you from
yeah, yeah.
all the nuggets you're sharing and everything you're doing. It's like you're ready,
Yeah,
right?
well, I definitely have a lot of appreciation for the work that you do, and the work that, that is people centric. I mean, I think at the core of what
Yes.
you're doing here with this podcast is trying to
Yes. So
empower
what's your
people.
next step? What is your next level? Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Yeah, I think in 5 years, I'd like to start my own business. I don't know what that is, and I'm not gonna just like, I
Rush
want to
into
know
it.
what
Yeah.
that is, but that's sort of where I'm trending. I think for right now, I love what we do at Five Iron. I'm very passionate about what we do.
I could feel that.
And so I'm sort of I'm not ready to leave.
Right.
I'm ready, very much involved
Involved.
in
Yeah.
this growth and want to stay there. But I think it's someday I want to really be able to be in a position where I can really share all of the things
Right.
that matter to me with other people.
So we have had such a great
Yes. Thank
conversation. We
you.
end our podcast always with one questions, right? What is one positive outcome that you are proud of, and what did it take you to get there?
For sure. Man, the thing that comes to mind immediately is the fact that I have a woman who's gonna marry me. Like, I think she and I have been together for 7 years. Relationship is a choice you make every day, right? You have to make that choice every day, and I'm so excited to get married. Like,
I can feel
yeah,
it. I can
very
feel the
excited.
excitement and congratulations.
Yeah,
And
thank
thank
you.
you so much,
Yeah,
listeners, to join such an amazing conversation.
yeah,
I
thank
mean,
you.
we have had so many nuggets. We've learned about love of people,
Yeah,
empathy, growth, action items,
yeah,
baby steps at a time, how to face our fears. I can go on and
yeah,
on and on from Coach Elias.
yeah. All right. Yes.
So thank
Protect
you
your
so much.
peace. That's
Remember to follow and share so a lot of people can learn from everything that we talked about.
so yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Bye,
Yes.
everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
All right.
Appreciate
Thanks for listening to Positive Outcomes. Follow the show and share this episode to inspire someone's next chapter.